Welcome to Spoonful of Strength, a podcast for people with chronic illness and the ones who love them.
The compassion that you guys have really shines through.
Rachel and Tina cultivate a sense of comfort.
It was such a rewarding experience.
They were great hosts.
It was amazing. You are so kind.
Spoonful of Strength has given us this great platform.
They were so welcoming.
Here are your hosts, Rachel and Tina.
Welcome to this week's episode of Spoonful of Strength. I cannot believe that this is actually our season 2 finale.
Crazy.
Can you believe that, Rachel?
Crazy.
I know.
It's been a big year.
It has. So this is airing on New Year's Eve.
Mm-hmm.
A great way to wrap up season 2. I am Tina.
Yeah.
I am a stage 4 cancer survivor. And I have fibromyalgia, some chronic back issues that I'm dealing with, and a few other random little new things that popped up this past year. And my wonderful co-host.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I have progressive MS. I also have been a type 1 diabetic for over 25 years. And just like Tina, we are sprinkled with a plethora of other things that just tend to just get on our nerves. But we are here today and looking forward to having a good podcast.
This week's episode is our season 2 finale. Rachel and I are going to be talking a little bit about humor and the importance of finding humor in your daily life as we deal with all of this. And then afterwards, we have Christie joining us as our final spoonie for season 2.
How you been doing, Tina?
Doing okay-ish. This, the sciatic pain thing has just been driving me nuts. I got a few good days last week after my that epidural that I was hopeful was going to help, but it's the pain's creeping back in. So we'll see what 2025 brings with dealing with that. How about you?
Yeah, I've been doing all right. I just been a little bit blah. I've had so much testing in the last couple weeks. I had a spine MRI yesterday, which was my last test of the year. So I think in the last couple months, I've had an endoscopy, an esophagram, a brain MRI, a MRI, a spine MRI. I've had some stomach testing, and it's all done. So I've got some appointments throughout December and January, but I'm looking forward to having all this testing done. So yeah, we are both, I think, dragging a little bit today, but we are going to put on a great show because this is our finale for the year, and we gotta bring it. So what are we talking about today?
Well, we're going to kind of look at the year in review and also talk about humor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I think we mentioned on another episode, I really always remember that Reader's Digest section of, laughter is the best medicine. So, yeah. and if you can't laugh through all of this, then
what can you do?
It makes it a little more tougher to deal with, I think.
Yeah. I think if you really sit in it every day, you'd probably, at least me, I would cry every day. So if I can just find some humor in it. But, well, we've been doing this officially about 8 months now since we started the podcast. I think we started recording in April, and it's been 44. This is our 44th episode. That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. We started out with a bang, and we're going 20 million an hour, 2 episodes a week, and then reality hit us, and we were like, "Oh, that was a little too much." But I think season 2 has been a good balance for us. Do you have any favorite memories from season 2? Yeah, I love asking you questions that I haven't thought of. So
yeah, all of our guests were just so fantastic. I can't pick a favorite.
Yeah, I don't think I can pick a favorite guest. I think that would be I mean, you're right. Every single one of them was absolutely amazing. And we've learned so much this season about other chronic illnesses. I do remember an emotional episode, at least for me. It was a second episode of the season where, if you remember, I had recorded like a really emotional piece that was really difficult to do. I think you and I were supposed to record that day. I think something came up on your end, and I just had like a really bad doctor's appointment. And so I was like, I have all this pent up, anxiety. And so I decided to just put it out there on a recording just to kind of, number one, get it out, because a lot of times I come home from the doctors and I'm like, there's nobody around, there's nobody to talk to, and just to kind of get it out. And I didn't want to wait until a week later when we recorded to where I could kind of soften it and tell myself, oh, it really wasn't that bad, and all the things that I do to minimize, what I was feeling. And so that was a really hard thing to put out there, because I don't think anybody wants to like throw out their weakest moments, but that was a hard one for me, but it was good for me.
Yeah, I remember that, and how difficult that was. It's hard to show that vulnerable side through all of this. But I think that actually helps a lot of people feel okay. That was the one thing that I remember, going through, talking about dealing with things with humor. And I know I'm sure you remember when I was going through all my treatments and everything, I always, with my updates, I always had some humor twisted into that.
Yeah.
Whole process. But that was the only way I would share, the positive, upbeat, funny side of it. And then I realized I was, getting people going, oh, you're going through so much and I feel bad because I'm struggling, and, you're always so positive. And that was when I realized that I was doing everybody an injustice by not letting them see my struggles as well.
Yeah. Looking over the season, I mean, look at what we have been able to talk about: PBC and autoimmune hepatitis, narcolepsy. That was something new for us. Type 1 diabetes, we hadn't really talked about too much. Epilepsy, endometriosis, POTS and AMPS, ankylosing spondylitis. We dove a little bit into neurodivergent and mental health. So I think we had a good span of people coming on, and every single one of them was just amazing. So what do we hope for 2025?
Ooh. Well, hopefully our listeners are still tuning in with us, and that we continue to grow our listener base, because it's been pretty exciting every time you send me an update of when we hit these follow milestones. So
I have to do this. I got a message last night, and I'm going to share it because this person is a big follower of our podcast. And actually, we had that giveaway for season 1, Ian, and yes. He is a great follower. I just want to share this. We're recording this early, obviously, and we had an episode come out just yesterday about hobbies and healing, and that was a really fun episode to do. And he reached out and said that he really enjoyed the episode, that he does puzzles, and he sent me this message, and it says, you all give me so much hope, and you all help me so much. We just want to thank Ian for being a follower of the podcast. So I'm going to wait and see when this airs if I get a message from Ian. But we appreciate all the messages that we get about the podcast and all the support that we've received on the Instagram page.
I was just going to touch on getting that message from Ian and all the other ones, that like the positive feedback. That's what keeps us going. Because as we get to the end of each season, we had the conversation towards the end of season 1, and then again towards the end of season 2, checking in with each other, checking in with ourselves, going, okay, do we do another season or not?
Yeah.
And then we get these messages and we're like, well, of course we have to do another season now.
Yeah. Should we announce that we have season 3 coming up in 2025?
Yeah. Season 3 will be starting before you know it. Tuesday, February 4th is when we will air our first episode of season 3.
We can't stay away long.
No, we can't. We can't. And as a reminder, if you're interested in being a guest on our podcast, please reach out to us.
Yes, we've got a wait list going, and we'll be choosing season 3 from there. So if you're interested in sharing your story, reach out to us. Let us know what chronic illness that you have and a little bit about yourself. You can send that through a DM, through Instagram at the Spoonful of Strength IG page, and let us know. And then we'll be scheduling probably after the first of the year. We'll start scheduling people for season 3. So we're looking forward to it. All right. So do we dive into why we're here today? Let's talk about humor as medicine for chronic illness. How important is that?
I personally think it's very important. Your mindset just has such a big impact on how you maneuver through your daily life and your chronic illness. So I personally feel that if you let your mind stay in a dark and dreary gray space, then it just makes everything even more difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've been struggling a lot cognitively and recently, and there are some things that come out of my mouth that are just absolutely crazy. It was actually funny. I've started having problems with hearing people write. So the other day, Ed and I met with my son, Bryce, and his wonderful girlfriend, Maya, for lunch. And Maya was actually having a hard time thinking of something. And so she's trying to explain it. And this is what I hear. I hear it's hairy and it's like a rectangle and you put clothes in it. And I'm like, what would be hairy that you'd put clothes in? And then she was like, a dresser. And I'm like, I was like, how is the dresser hairy? And she said, I didn't say hairy. I said heavy. And I was like, so here I am in the middle of a restaurant going, dressers aren't hairy, and everybody's looking at me like I'm absolutely bananas. And I was like, oh yeah, sorry. I heard that wrong.
Heard it wrong. I hate the problem is with us is, of course, as we're getting older as well, our memories aren't the greatest.
Yeah.
Dave's 5.5 years older than he's like six months younger than Ed. But so now it's the amount of times he'll say, no, this is what you said. And I'll be like, absolutely, this is not what I said. This is what I said. And between my cognitive issues and him not remembering as easily, it's like, okay, now I'm in this constant state of questioning, did I really say what I thought I said, and he just didn't hear me correctly, or because I swear sometimes he'll make up conversations in his head that he thinks happened, and I'm like, I did not have that, but there's just my cognitive issues is so much that I doubt myself even at times when I really am pretty positive.
We should just walk around life with a microphone on and then just repost all of the crazy stuff that happens.
Yeah. I told him I'm going to start, that we need to start recording our conversation
Yeah.
because he'll be like, this is what you said. And I'll be like, no, this is what I said. You made that up in your head. And he'll swear up and down.
Yeah. Ed knows just to drop it because I think the other day, and I can't even remember what I said, but I was like, I'm going to die on this one. Like, I am telling you, this is what I said. And he was like, hands in the air. All right, honey, you're right. You're right. He's learned a little bit in the last couple of years, but
yep.
I got to tell you, this is probably one of my most embarrassing things that have happened to me since being chronically ill. I was going to physical therapy for the first time to do an assessment. You know, they do all the assessments to figure out what kind of therapy you need. And Ed went with me, and I get out of the car and I look down, and I'm wearing 2 identical shoes in different colors.
Oh no.
I have, and they weren't like tennis shoes to wear. They were just like slip on, but one is like navy blue and one is like light gray. Like they couldn't have been further from the color spectrum. I get out and I look at the time and I have 5 minutes to get in there. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to think I am mentally not with it, that I can't even put on 2 pairs of shoes that match. And my husband didn't even notice. So here I am walking, thinking everybody's going to be staring at my shoes, and I shuffle in there and I'm like, yeah, I know I have on 2 different shoes, but I couldn't even focus the whole time. I was like, it was a mess.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of something and I'm like, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I must have forgotten all of my embarrassing moments. Although there was a time, and this again has nothing to do with chronic illness, but it does show how easy it is for me to maneuver my life with humor when I'm with somebody like this. We were at Walmart one time trying to get paint and nobody was around coming. And so I'm like, I'll go try to find somebody. So I'm wandering around trying to find somebody to come to the paint section. And I hear on the loudspeaker, assistance needed in the paint department. And I'm just like, wait a minute. I know that voice. I go stomping over there. Dave's hanging up the microphone. He's like, oh my God. Somebody came running over there pretty quickly after that. And he was like, it's a good thing you showed up because I was about to start having a big paint sale.
Oh no.
That's the kind of person you need, like, the people that you need in your life when you're dealing with this is ones that can make you laugh.
Yeah. You mentioned the other day about, and this really has nothing to do with chronic illness, but you mentioned my Pepsi story the other day.
Oh yeah.
So I think I wasn't diagnosed with MS. I'm sure I probably had it at that time, but it is a funny story. Ed and the kids were on the other side of Walmart, and I had to pick up a 2-liter bottle of Pepsi, and I went to reach up to grab it out of those things, lost my grip, and it fell, and I hear "Phing!" and it starts spinning and exploding all the way into the children's clothing section, spraying everything at once. And I look over, the Pepsi guy's right next to me. He was filling it up. And he looks at me and he goes, holy shit. And I get about 2 aisles over and I hear clean up on aisle 10 or whatever it was. And a couple minutes later, I see Ed and the boys walking towards me. And he goes, what did you do? I said, how did you know that was me? And he was like, was it you? And I was like, yeah, it was me. And I was like, so I can't completely blame that on my MS or anything, but that was probably actually one of my most embarrassing. I have plenty of embarrassing moments, but there's been many conversations in my household of like, oh, I hate this brain fog. And well, at least you know you have a brain because you get images taken, every
All the
6 months, so at least I can prove that I do in fact have a brain. It's scattered with lesions, but it's in there. So
it's there. It's there.
Yeah.
I know our dad used to, whenever they did some sort of imaging, chest imaging, he would always, say, see, I do have a heart.
Yeah. Oh, he did.
While you're on your phone, come on, I know it's in your hand. Head on over to Spoonful of Strength's Etsy shop at spoonfulofstrength.etsy.com. That's spoonful with 2 L's. We have a wide variety of t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, mugs, and so much more. Anything in the shop can be customized based on your illness. We have sizes from extra small to 5X and many colors to choose from. The best part is most items ship within 2 business days. So head on over to spoonfulofstrength.etsy.com.
Well, it's funny. A lot of what I've noticed, and especially like opening up the Etsy shop, and a lot of people really enjoy the sweatshirts and hoodies that I have that are kind of funny and sarcastic. And I've kind of started making a little bit more of those because it really is true sometimes to have something that you can just smile at and laugh about. And of course on Instagram, you see all those funny chronic illness memes. I found a couple, and I know you found some too, that we can share. This one says, shh, be very quiet. I might find the thought that just vanished from my brain. Wait, almost. Yeah, no, gone. How many times have we done that? Where if you all, we did one episode where we completely did an unedited, but if you could hear editing sometimes with us going, oh, I can't remember what I was going to say.
I like this one. I may be chronically ill, but I'm also chronically fabulous.
Yes, we are. Here's one. It says, why are there never any good side effects? Just once, I'd like to read a medication bottle that says, may cause extreme sexiness.
I think it's weird how some days I feel reasonably healthy and other days I feel like a busted can of biscuits.
Oh gosh, I found this one because I have extreme stomach issues. And so this is for the IBD, IBS, Crohn's warriors out there. They say, always trust your gut. Have you met my gut? You don't want to trust that bastard. So funny.
Autoimmune disease, because the only thing that can kick my ass is me.
Right. Well, I have a joke for you.
Okay.
I used to have a beautiful girlfriend who loved and cherished me before I got diagnosed with schizophrenia. Then they put me on some pills and she disappeared.
But it says, I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a spoon today.
That's right. We'll work for spoons. Well, here, this is a little bit of a long one, but I thought this was kind of funny. It says a doctor offers $100 if he can't cure your illness. Otherwise, you pay him $50. So the guy sees that sign and he enters the clinic hoping to fool the doctor and easily make $100. Doctor, I don't have my sense of taste, says the guy. Here, drink this, as the doctor hands him a tiny vial filled with an unknown liquid. The guy drinks from it and immediately spews it out. Blah, this is gasoline. Well, your sense of taste is back. That'll be $50, said the doctor. He was annoyed and disappointed. The guy leaves and decides to return the next day to try it again with the doctor. Doctor, I'm having some trouble with memory loss. I don't even remember what happened yesterday. I hope you can do something about this, the guy said. Here, drink this, as the doctor hands him the same tiny bottle from yesterday. But doctor, this is gasoline. Good. You got your memory back. That'll be $50. Furious, the guy leaves and swears that the doctor would pay him the next day. So the next day, the guy enters the clinic wearing sunglasses, claiming he became blind due to an accident. Doctor, I can't see. Is there anything you could do? Hold on. Let's see, as the doctor carefully selects a vial from his cabinet. Yep, this is it. The doctor shows said vial to the guy. But that's the vial with the gasoline. You got your eyesight back. That'll be $50. It really is funny that just having a good sense of humor with all that we're going through, it doesn't minimize what we're going through, but it really can be medicine and take off maybe a little bit of the weight that's on your shoulders. But
I always say I could go on the road with a stand-up comedy routine about my whole cancer journey.
Yeah. I've actually had that same dream of going up on stage and saying, all the things that are, my body is completely trying to run away from me, and all the funny stories about, of course, could you imagine us being stand-up comedians where they have no cue cards, no teleprompters, and we would have to memorize?
Oh no, we would be in trouble.
Yeah.
We would need to have little notes on it written on the palm of our hands.
Well, here, we can both be stand-up comics. And when you're on stage, I'll have the Saturday Night Live, poster boards with the words on it. And then you do the same for me.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll tour as a group, and then here we can tour as a duo. And when I'm missing my word, you can fill it in, and we'll just basically be up there bumbling.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be great.
Yeah.
We'll fill bars all over the place.
Yeah. Well, send us your favorite memes and jokes, and just either send it to us through Instagram or send it through the comments. And we'd love to see what makes you smile when you're having a rough day. We're finishing up here season 2. Actually, we're finishing up the first 2 seasons of this year. And what do you think you've gotten from this last year with doing this little endeavor?
It's brought to light that I still have a lot to share. As far as sharing space, creating space for others is what I mean by sharing. So
yeah.
How about you?
I think that I decided early in the year that I wanted my world to be kind. And that's the word that's been in my mind all year, is be kind, treat people kind, don't be in, getting into drama. Just, you can live your life and just be kind to people. So I feel like that this journey has given me so much. I see so much kindness from other people who are dealing with battles similar to mine and similar to yours. And they're just kind people that want to get the word out about their illness. And we've not had one interview go south. We have not had one person that we were like, oh, we should not have done that. Every single person, I think once they leave the Zoom meeting, we're just like, wow, that's another wonderful person who's struggling just like we are. And so I've received as much kindness back as I had kind of decided in the beginning of the year to give. And so I think it's just been good for my heart, and I want to keep that going for the next year. I might have to come up with a new word for next year, because, kindness has been kind of my mantra for this year. So I'll have to think of another word, but
I like that idea. Every year, a word of the year of how you want your year to be.
Yeah. When I have any sort of chaos or any drama, anything like that, I'm like, just be kind, just just try and be kind. And at least I know that I can walk away and not have any pettiness or regrets or any moments of that I would be ashamed about or anything like that. So I'll have to I'll have to think about that. And when we return on February 4th, then I'll have to see what my new word is. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and bring in our spoonie, Christie, to talk about her journey with multiple sclerosis and her battle with breast cancer. Let's go ahead and bring her in. Well, thank you, Christie, for coming in on the podcast today. We're really excited to talk with you about your experience with multiple sclerosis as well as breast cancer. How are you doing today?
I am doing okay. Doing pretty good.
Good. Can we start by just having you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and anything you would like to share?
Sure. I appreciate you guys having this podcast and giving all of us people here with chronic illnesses and other issues a forum to tell our stories, because that's important. You've had a lot of good people on.
Yes.
My story started back in 2005. I was actually on vacation in Cabo, and the night before we were supposed to leave, my left eye started to become a little blurry. I thought maybe was just maybe a few too many margaritas, just tired, that kind of thing. But the next day, before we were heading out, the eyesight kept getting worse. And by the time I got to the airport, I was dizzy, and I had to sit down, couldn't really walk around. So I didn't really know what was going on. Got home, was also having some minor tingling sensations start to come about. So I finally went to the eye doctor. By the time I got to the eye doctor, which was a couple days later, I couldn't see the big E on the eye chart. Could see the halo around it of light, but I couldn't see the big E. And he diagnosed me with optic neuritis and said I most likely had MS. Which was all a new thing to me. I didn't know anything about any of those. So I went through a year and a half of testing and specialists and neurologists, and basically there wasn't enough evidence. They didn't find any lesions. So I got the diagnosis of clinically isolated syndrome, CIS, which basically means you had an episode. We're not sure if it's going to turn into something, but we hope not. Mm-hmm. So at that time in 2005, the medicines were relatively new. There weren't that many around. They did offer me, my neurologist did offer me Copaxone, but it wasn't necessarily a given that if you had a CIS that you were going to take medicine. And they told me I didn't have MS and I didn't want to give an injection every day. So I said no. So I did not go on medicine. So basically they just were like, well, come back and see us if something else happens. So I just decided, I had young kids at the time. They were about 9 years old. Well, no, actually, no. 2005, they were 4 and 6. So I had young kids. So I was just like, okay, life goes on. I had the same kind of dizzy symptoms. My eyesight came back, which was good, in about a week. But I still had the dizziness and the tingling sensations, and they would just kind of come and go and ebb and flow. Never really got worse, better, just always there to some degree. And then in 2007, I went for my annual women's wellness exam, and they found a lump in one of my breasts. At that time, I was 37. And my OBGYN said, well, I don't think it's anything. Because I had dense breast tissue, which makes your breast lumpier to begin with and can kind of mask some things. She said, I don't think it's anything, but do you want to get an ultrasound just in case? And I said no, which is not like me, but I think it was a year and a half of testing. And I was just like, okay, I'm tired of chasing a diagnosis. So I left. About 6 months later, the lump was still there. I didn't really think it had grown, but I was concerned about it. So I called the OBGYN and I said, I just want to verify that this is the same lump that they identified when I was there. And they said yes. And I said, okay. They said, you want to get an ultrasound? I said, no, that's all right. 6 months later, I went back for my annual exam, had the ultrasound. And after the ultrasound, they sent me for the mastectomy, eventually a biopsy, and I was officially diagnosed with stage 2B breast cancer. So I am that person that is the example of don't ignore your body, because I did have to go through chemo and radiation. I chose to have a double mastectomy, probably mostly because of my age. I was only 38 when I was diagnosed. And had I not ignored that lump, I probably could have avoided some of that. So anyway, but I went through all of the treatment and got through it. Our family had always been a healthy family, into fitness. I was actually a health teacher, did a lot of things in health with the community and stuff. And so I always felt like I was like, okay, I got this. Just get through it and I'll bounce back. And I still worked out and I did all of those things. So I was very positive. I got through it, no problem. And again, my kids were 7 and 9, and I was just like, all right, we got through it. Let's go. Life goes on. So got through that diagnosis. In 2014, I was out jogging and I fell and broke my collarbone. Normally that doesn't require surgery, but mine was a little complicated. So I did go in for surgery, and after I had recovered, on a follow-up scan, I went in for a follow-up CT scan just to check something out, and a suspicious nodule in my lung happened to pop up on that scan. And so my orthopedic, thankfully, said, you need to get that checked out, because I had a history with breast cancer. And so I found another oncologist, and he looked at it and said, yeah, let's get this checked out. Ordered a PET scan. The night before the PET scan, I started having some weird symptoms like chest tightness, and I couldn't take a deep breath, which was very unusual for me because I'm naturally a very calm person. So I thought maybe I was having a heart attack. I don't know. At first, I was just sort of like, I don't know what this is. The next morning, it was still there. I was concerned, but something in me didn't want to cancel that PET scan. So I decided to go ahead and do the PET scan. And if the symptoms were still there, I would do something about it. So I went and had the PET scan. Symptoms were still there. And basically, it was very close to the hospital. So I just drove myself to the ER afterwards, checked in and explained what my symptoms were. So they did a variety of tests, the EKG, CT scan. And for some reason, they wanted to do an MRI of the brain. I don't really know why, because I didn't tell them anything about optic neuritis or MS or any of that. So anyway, all the tests were done. The ER doctor actually, and I told him, I said, I just came from a PET scan. This is what's going on. So I said, you may want to go see if you can get those results. So I think they did. And he came in and he's the one that basically said, yeah, we think you have metastatic breast cancer. And as much as health that I knew, as much as health information that I was familiar with, I didn't really understand what metastatic meant. And so my husband and I both looked it up on our phones at the same time. And if you Google it, it's not a good thing. So panic kind of crept in and we left, and I was like, Okay, great. So the way I am is, I mean, I'm not one that just sits back and waits for somebody to tell me what to do. I didn't like what I was told about metastatic cancer. I did seek out an oncologist, or I had gone to that oncologist. I went back to him. He explained the PET scan to me and said, yes, we think this is metastatic cancer. Actually, that was a very awkward appointment. And I didn't go back to this doctor, even though a lot of people really liked him, because when I was in his office, and I don't know if it was my age, sometimes if somebody has a wife or somebody around the same age, it makes them uncomfortable. But he wouldn't look at me. He looked at my husband and basically kind of mumbled under his breath, yes, we think this is metastatic and you have like 2 to 12 years to live. And I thought, okay, no, I didn't like that at all. So I went home and I was kind of furious with that doctor because I didn't like the fact that he was giving me a time schedule for my life based on something as small. It was a very small nodule, like 1.4 centimeters or something like that, that they found. Anyway, so I went into high gear and said, well, I don't like what they're telling me, and I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do this on my own. And so at that point, I wasn't even thinking about NS. I was just like, okay. So the doctors were basically, they wanted to give me anti-estrogens, which I am on an anti-estrogen pill to this day, but I decided not to take the other medications. And I eventually landed on, I was going to go to Florida to an alternative cancer clinic because I didn't want, basically what they tell you when you have metastatic cancer is that you're going to be on a medication. It's going to work for a while. Eventually it's going to stop working. And then you're going to have to go on a different medication. And when when you've used up all your options, then things are going to, that's when the cancer will advance and eventually it'll be terminal. And so I didn't really like that answer. So I decided I was going to try something different. And I was kind of had this real positive attitude, like, I know that alternative things can work and I'm going to be the one that finds something, right? So I landed on this Florida clinic near Tampa. And I went there originally for 6 weeks, and it ended up being 7 weeks. And while I was there, they did all kinds of, like, every day you had an IV of like vitamins and some different things. And then they did all kinds of therapies, including like a mental health therapist met with you. Hyperbaric chamber was one of them, and a special diet and all kinds of things. Did it help my cancer? I think so. It definitely kept things stable. The little nodule we were monitoring didn't grow. In fact, it shrank for a while. We were kind of up and down. So I came home, things were stable. Actually, before I came home, I started to notice some other issues. When I would go up for walks when I was there and do some other things. And one, my dizziness was worse. And when I was walking, about half a mile in, my legs started to feel weak. Like I was limping a little bit and I didn't know what that meant. So I was just having all this stuff going on, trying to wrap my head around cancer and healing myself and all of that. And about the last week I was there, I started to think about MS. I don't know what made it pop in my mind, but I was like, oh yeah, that's something that they said I could have someday. Anyway, so I asked the doctor, there was a doctor that ran that clinic. I asked my primary care doctor, I asked my oncologist back home, and they all sort of blew it off. And I said, okay, well, and then I thought back to that MRI that I had in the ER when I thought I was having a heart attack. And I pulled it out. There was, in fact, some white matter tissue issues. which at the time, nobody was even thinking MS or anything related. They were just looking for cancer. And so I eventually said, hey, I have an MRI and it's showing that I have white matter plaques of some form. And they were like, it's nothing. It's like, okay. So eventually, after I kind of got my stuff in order with the cancer, I had to meet with my oncologist. Finally decided that I couldn't do an official biopsy. I should preface with that, because I have implants from the original breast cancer, and so it was too dangerous to stick a needle in there. So he decided that I should do a surgical biopsy. So because we were going to do a surgical biopsy, because they never officially even knew 100% for sure that this was metastatic cancer, they were just assuming. So because they were going to do that, they were going to go ahead and remove the nodule. So that's what happened. December of 2015, I had surgery. They removed the one, let's say at that time it was about a centimeter nodule. They tested it. It was in fact cancer. And that was 9 years ago. I haven't had any evidence of cancer since. But after that, I said, okay, it's time to go to the neurologist. So I went back to a neurologist. I showed him the MRI and I said, look, this is what I think is going on. And she said, yep, I think you're right. So that was 2015 when I was officially diagnosed with MS. Long story to get there, but that's where we're at. So that was 2000. That was 9 years ago. And within about 4 years, I went from limping after about half a mile of walking to needing a walker, scooter, wheelchair all the time. And now it's 2024. So that's 4 or 5 years later. And yeah, definitely in the wheelchair full time now.
I'm just like, wow, that's a lot to,
yeah, it is a lot.
Have to go through. And and you definitely, I see as a stage 4 cancer survivor, and also with Rachel, as a MS warrior, it's we can see, I think we both understand both sides of what you've gone through.
Join Spoonful of Strength on Instagram, a community open to everyone. Whether you have a chronic illness or support someone who does, you are welcome at Spoonful of Strength. You'll get preview clips of the upcoming episodes and insight into my world as a spoonie. That's Spoonful of Strength, Spoonful with 2 L's, on Instagram.
Now the breast cancer, the nodule in the lung, so they ended up removing it, and then you did no further treatment other than what you did in Florida before that point, correct?
I'm still on an anti-estrogen called letrozole, which is like tamoxifen, only a similar thing. I've taken that every day since, but that's all.
Right. Do you feel that, looking back at the time, everything that you did, those 7 weeks in Florida, do you feel that all of that you did with that clinic helped keep that from progressing more, possibly?
I do feel like
I know there's no way to say, but
yeah, I do feel like it probably helped keep it from growing any more than it was going to. It definitely didn't get rid of it. I'd met a lot of people there who had a lot of success. I mean, there were people that would come in for refresher weeks and they didn't have cancer, so it definitely worked for a lot of people. And I do think it didn't eliminate it, I can say that, but I do think it kept it at bay.
How did you do mentally throughout those really 10 years handling the breast cancer, as well as maybe having those symptoms that you kind of almost had to put at bay to focus on the cancer?
how did you deal with that mentally?
I think mentally I dealt with it pretty well. Having younger kids, you stay busy and basically your focus is on them. You're doing their things. I was a health teacher for a while, but then when my daughter was born, I was a stay-at-home mom for like 14 years overall. But I did little projects here and there with health and different things. I had a gym for a little while. So my mental health was pretty good because there was always an end in sight. The symptoms, the dizziness and stuff, it was annoying and I didn't feel well some of the time, but it wasn't anything I couldn't live with. The original breast cancer, there was definitely an end in sight. Like, I know if I get through this treatment and get through the surgery, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to bounce back. It'll be okay. Mental health, it's still really good considering, but when you have advanced MS, and I know this, it wears and tears on you. And so the disability part of it has probably been worse than anything else when it comes to, I don't know for whatever reason why my cancer journey took the way it does. Now, I do know that they're dealing with metastatic cancer today differently than they used to. Even though my situation is still unique, I don't know if that CT scan from the shoulder injury saved me because it was caught it so early, whereas metastatic cancer often isn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, my mental health really has been pretty good, but the MS where it is today takes its toll. I guess that's the best way to say it.
Yeah, I can agree with that. How long was your chemo and radiation period? How long were you in that treatment?
4 or 5 months.
Yeah. Tina also found her cancer by accident as well. So
I went in, they were checking me for appendicitis and realized that something was blocking my kidney. So, I like, and the more I talk to other cancer survivors is, that tends to be the case more often than not.
Yeah. Because oftentimes they don't, the symptoms
they're not there.
Taking you
I was asked so many times, oh, how long have you been having the symptoms with this? And I'm like, I haven't had any symptoms. So, yeah, it's just, sometimes you have to definitely look at it almost like divine intervention, so to speak.
Yeah. No, I really, you think, I think that way. I'm like, well, had that not happened, where would I be today?
Yeah.
Would I be here today?
Right. And do you feel that situation of that mindset of, divine intervention, did that change it sounds like you're healthy, you embraced a healthy lifestyle in general and a healthy like mental outlook in general, but do you feel like that kind of change going, oh my gosh, I was just given a second chance. What am I supposed to be doing with my life now out of this?
I can't say that, and that did, only because I feel like I haven't stopped dealing with something. As soon as the cancer was under control, I had to deal with the MS. So I don't know that I've had, there have been moments where I've said, there are moments when I go, gosh, I'm supposed to have cancer, but it's just, I think the other has taken over. So I don't think about that often.
Yeah. You're dealing with another beast that is kind of maybe take
precedent
away
right now. Yeah.
But one interesting thing from listening to some of your podcasts, for me is that we sometimes think we're the only ones going through this much, but in fact, a lot of us with chronic illness have multiple things happening, including you guys.
Yeah.
So, and people don't often always realize that.
Yeah. Well, talk about, you went through some stem cell treatments for your MS in Panama. Is that right?
Yes.
Walk us through, like, how did you find that? How did you make that decision?
I'm a self Google researcher. I really did think for a long time, and this was before the MFs really kicked in, that I was going to be one of those people that figured out how to heal themselves. And I was going to give it a go. And so I started, I don't know, stem cells popped on my radar. I started researching it. And it's very interesting. It's really hard to explain how stem cells are utilized in the United States because it's very random and different, and the FDA doesn't have a good handle on it, to be quite honest, from what I can tell. So I could not find anything in the US that I thought worthy, that I thought was legitimate enough. So I started looking at this clinic they have in Panama. I will say today, that was 2018 to 20, but today I'm finding some different things that I think they're doing some of the same things here in the US finally. Is it legal? Not really, but again, the FDA doesn't have a good handle on things. But anyway, so I found this clinic in Panama. There's a coach that I live in Texas, and there's a coach that lives in another town in Texas, and he had been to Panama 3 times. And on his 3rd time, he had MS, and he had to actually resign from coaching. On his 3rd time, the stem cells kicked in, and he basically, within a matter of months, was 98, 99% better.
Wow.
And went back to coaching, is still coaching today. Did find out this year that he has started to regress again. But so anyway, so I met him. I actually got in contact with him, met up with him, we talked. He said, you need to go. You need to go. These are the types of things that people do. And I still believe this too. This is why, when you talk about there's all of these types of treatments, I do believe there are some that work for different people. Do they work for everybody? No. Otherwise, everybody would be on a plane to Panama right now and be standing in line. But you take your chances. You decide whether or not this is going to be worthy. Same thing with going to the cancer clinic. It's like, does it work for everyone? Of course not. Otherwise, this cancer clinic would be the best thing in the world. But so we went to Panama. First time was in like March of 2018. We went 3 times in the next year and a half. And unfortunately for me, I didn't see improvement. I decided to go 3 times because my friend Sam went 3 times. Looking back, it was a lot. It was expensive. It's a lot of money. They don't tell you their success rate because they don't have to adhere to the same guidelines like in the US. So, there are people that are successful, but it's not, I would say, super common. They do have a lot of success in other areas, and actually autism is one of the things that they treat the most there, which I never would have expected, but it's interesting. Stem cells is very interesting.
Tina, you interviewed a Spoonie earlier this year
that went through the stem cell with MS, did she say something to the effect of you have to go early in your progression, or am I completely losing it?
I believe so. I know she went pretty early, and this was in Australia.
Mm.
When I interviewed, she was from Australia, and I know that she had it done pretty early pretty early after her diagnosis.
And that may be a factor. I may be waited too long. But the other thing too is in the US, like with Selma Blair, who's the famous person famous with MS, she did it's still not a legal treatment, but they do trials of it here, like medical trials. She did the HSCT, I think it's called, which is bone marrow stem cells, but they wipe out your immune system with chemo first. So you're starting
Right.
from scratch, which makes sense.
That's the one that I interviewed also. If I remember right, she was in the hospital for a long time because of her immune system was completely wiped.
Was yours done differently?
Yes. The stem cells I had were umbilical cord stem cells, which I don't remember this, but they say after you have a baby, they ask you if you want to keep your stem cells and bank your stem cells from your umbilical cord. Which they, when women do that. So anyway, in Panama, and now they have clinics here that I found out that do it. They use umbilical cord stem cells, and I didn't want to go I knew about the other treatment with the chemo, but I didn't think my body could handle it because I'd already been through chemo. I'd already been through so much. So I didn't want to go that route. So this was basically, you go in, there's some pre-stuff that they do, but they basically just give you an injection. They gave you injection of stem cells. They give you an IV, and then they injected some into my abdomen. And then you're supposed to wait for a month or two and kind of track if you notice any improvement, that type of thing. So it was very, very basic. Wasn't a lot to it, in fact.
How long did you have to stay in Panama each time you were there?
About a week. Well, a little less than a week. I think 5 days.
When everything started, like going back to even like that first issue with the eye, your kids were really young. How throughout the years have your kids and your support system, how have they maneuvered through all of this?
Pretty well. Now my husband, he's a trooper because he's been through a lot with me, obviously. My kids have done really well. I always sort of made it my priority not to burden them. So, mom was sick for a lot, but I wasn't the type that just laid down and didn't do anything, so sometimes I think that's to my detriment, because there are times that I wish they'd come over and be like, hey, I'll stay the night with you, Mom. Let me just do that. But they're so used to Mom just doing her thing and which is what I wanted to begin with. I don't want them to feel like they have to live next door to me to take care of me, which now they're in their 20s doing their own thing, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, it's a hard balance. My kids are now late teens, early 20s, and I'm finding I'm asking for help more. And where I was a little bit like you, where when they were younger, I tried to just suck it up and do it all and collapse at the end of the night. But that's, I think, what mothers tend to do, with young kids. But I'm sure that added a layer on top of everything else of just trying to put on that brave face.
Yeah, fortunately for me, I didn't really start experiencing the heavy MS symptoms until, let's see, my son graduated high school in 2000. 19. So till late. You're a little
Yeah.
bit sooner than I am, so I feel for you there because it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. In closing, I know you're in a progressive MS, and that can be very scary and very unknown because MS is, as you I'm sure know, is the snowflake disease where everybody's on a different ride, so to speak, and there is no natural path for MS. So, what would be some things that you have done in throughout your journey that would be good pieces of advice for people dealing with an unknown illness or a progressive illness like MS, of getting through kind of the unknown of it all?
One, I think, and I've heard many people say this before, you have to be your own advocate. I see with my mom and the older generation, they just sort of do whatever the doctor tells them. But navigating through this is challenging. And I have many times said no to doctors, and that's not always the best thing to do. But you sort of have to know that you're the patient, and ultimately you're in charge. Having a steady flow of the other thing I typically tell people, because I am in an advanced state, and when I enter a room in a wheelchair, like you said, we are all different. And just because somebody that has MS doesn't mean they're going to end up in a wheelchair like I am. And that's just lessons people. It's so hard for other people to understand.
Yeah, it really is a beast in and of itself. So I feel for you. I can't say I know what you're going through, but at least we're in the same,
Yeah.
I can understand a little bit, but we really appreciate you coming on today, because this was, like Tina said, kind of both of our worlds, mine with MS and her experience with her cancer journey. And it definitely something that we wanted to explore. And I'm happy that your breast cancer journey hopefully is behind you. And we definitely will hope for that to stay at bay. And we just hope that you can find some treatment with the MS that maybe the progression will slow down or stop for you. Doing this interview, I'm sure, took a lot out of you, and you probably will have to recover from it. So we understand that. And we appreciate how much everybody has to sacrifice just to sit down with us and tell us your story. And we just can't thank you enough for coming in and meeting with us today.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
I really enjoyed having Christie on, especially as our last spoonie for the season and our last spoonie for the year, because I think we both were able to connect with her, for me with her multiple sclerosis journey, and for you, her cancer journey. And I can't even imagine going through cancer while you're still navigating an MS diagnosis. And I think she's just a really brave and strong individual.
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that I have realized over our last 2 seasons is just the strength that everybody that navigates a chronic illness, exhibits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I posted something on Instagram yesterday because I don't take time a lot of times to really think about what we all do and how we live day to day. And it was very simple. It was a cloudy clouds in the background, and it said, "I am so proud of all the bad days I have survived." And I was like, yes, we don't take enough time sometimes to sit and go, wow, we're waking up every day and we continue to fight and we continue to live as hard as it is. And so we definitely want everybody to understand how proud we are of everybody. And I'm proud of you, Tina.
I am extremely proud of you.
Mm-hmm.
This was, I always give you big kudos of, Spoonful of Strength. And this podcast was your amazing brainchild. And was just so honored that you asked me to be part of it.
There wasn't anybody else that I would have chosen just because of our long-standing relationship and just understanding a little bit more of my story and me understanding your story and we have each other's back, and that will not change. But do you have a resolution for 2025 of what you want to do?
Yeah, 2025. I feel like 2024 was a lot of ups and downs. I had a lot of great times, but I also had a lot of struggles. 2025, I just want to make sure that I want to reconnect with myself a little more than I feel like I did in 2024.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Refocus on getting those healthy habits that kind of went by the wayside when I was kind of just in survival mode, dealing with so much of this back issues and stuff for a big portion of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope that 2025 gives you some relief, whatever that may be, that we can see some relief for you. Because as we sit here, I can see you. She looks like she's chair dancing. And I know it's because your back is hurting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coming in season 3, chair dancing with Tina. Yeah. But great episode.
Hey, we got to get those, our listener numbers up somehow, right?
Yeah, no kidding. We might have to show our feet or something on a Zoom, and
how about you? How about a resolution for 2025?
Yeah, I think the one thing, and I talked earlier about my word of the year, and I don't know what that's going to be, but I think in general, I have had a progressive year with my MS. Where I'm at physically is a lot different than January 1st of 2024. And I really want to, in 2025, take better care of my body, whether that being eating well, staying in physical therapy, whatever I need to do. And also mentally, I have taken a little bit of a dive this last half of the year, primarily because of the progression. And so I want to stay in therapy for a while. And my ultimate goal is to try not to look too much into the future, because where I'm going to be January 1st of 2026, I don't know, but I'm going to try and start out January 1st of 2025, not stressing about what the next year is going to bring, and try and just live in the day and take care of my mental health better and take care of my physical health better, so that we can continue doing this podcast for all of you. So, thought I was going to lose it for a second.
Yeah.
That's when I had to think about the feet thing again. Yeah. I'd make myself laugh or something, but no, it's been a pleasure, Tina, to have you sitting here, not next to me. It would be great to have you next to me, but across the Zoom call, and I couldn't have done it without you. And we hope that you all have a great new year, and we will be back shortly. Send us your comments, send us your funny memes, and send us some topic ideas that you want us to cover in the next season. So,
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. We'll see you February. Take care.